So obviously I take Japanese, and
Yeah.
I'm in Japanese one. I think no,
Yes.
yeah, okay. I'm
Yeah.
just making sure. I'm in Japanese one. I was just so you teach Hirameki, you're one of the three teachers, to Mr. Underwood and Mr. T. And I never heard of Hirameki when I came. So when I first came to ISAK and I looked on ManageBack, I was like, what is this lesson that says Hirameki? I was so confused. But when we were introduced to the project and everything, I thought it was such a brilliant thing, because even though it's not an MYP program, the G10, it's like we're still getting that sort of personal project sort of thing, despite not being an MYP. So for me, art is one of my favorite subjects, like for each school that I've gone to. And especially now here with the new unit on manga and anime, because that's really what I'm interested in. I'm really enjoying it. And even though we're online, I'm still able to get all of the things that I need to get done. So
Well done for that, because that's not an easy
thank you.
thing, is it?
Yeah. What do you think is particularly special about Japanese at ISAK? Because like it's one of the only schools, university schools, that offers
Oh, yeah, I think
Japanese.
this is the only school
Yeah,
that I offer
exactly.
Japanese one. Well, I mean, they make a curriculum, like, the design the course for UWC. I mean, that's not my intention. Like, when I actually design my program or courses, like, I want you to study something authentic, because I used to teach Japanese in the US. And then, of course, there are students who are into anime or manga, or so back then, like J-pop, or
Yeah.
any like K-pop right now, right? K-drama or something. But back then, I think a lot of kids are into Japanese culture like that, right? Then I wanted to make it more, but I also I taught for a prep school, like, my job was make sure that you as a student go to Stanford or those those big name schools.
Yeah.
So it was more like a test based, right? But when I moved to here, like, I knew that I don't want to teach in that direction anymore. I want my students to be like, I just want my students to enjoy the language since they are in Japan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. So I think the first thing that I did was I asked my students, like especially Japanese level one student, like from IEWL students, to actually make Japanese friend outside of campus, not on campus, right? Because they're in Japan. So I asked them to go off campus and then make friends, right? I gave them a year to do it, right?
Oh, that's
Not
so
year, but
cool.
then that it's cool, but that it's challenging part was they have to make friends, and also they have to actually go homestay.
Yeah, I saw that on the curriculum and I thought I was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
excited. I told all my
yeah,
friends
yeah.
and they were so jealous. They were like, that's such a cool program that you
Yeah.
guys.
But I think a lot of kids got so scared because they don't know how to make friends. Or,
Yeah.
like I said, well, I don't make friends for you, right? You need to go out off campus, and then start talking to people, either Japanese or English or whatever. Then getting known, and you don't just ask for homestay opportunity. Just say, hey, you want to hang out this weekend, or you want to go see a movie, you want to have a cup of coffee, and then you actually make effort to get there.
Yeah. I think
Then
that's really special.
yeah, so by the end of the year, which is April, like they were supposed to go like in a homestay. Like, I don't do anything, I don't do any planning, I don't call them, I don't need to make sure that you'll be okay. Well, of course
Yeah.
I care about your safety, but it's all student led, right?
Yeah.
So that was maybe university or my like ISAK key stuff, like I want my student to take initiative for learning, and also make friends and learn culture and language. And then when they come back, they're like so different. Like, wow, Sensei, that was great. I was so scared, but I made a friend, and then that is something very special to me.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. I really hope that I can get on campus by that time so I can do that as
But
well.
this year, since you didn't have that time to make friends off campus, but I'm gonna make an announcement next Thursday that when we meet, you, instead of homestaying, like finding homestay, because it's just so little time. So they're gonna actually go to, or you're gonna go to Karuizawa High School whole day.
Oh wow.
And they
Oh, that's
experience
so
the
cool.
school, high school all day. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're gonna wear school uniform or anything like
Oh my
that,
gosh,
but it's
then
just
it's like anime. Just
yeah.
reminds me of anime.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like, you guys watch a lot of, the anime world, and then the ISAK is a little bit different. We are in Japan, but we are so international. We are surrounded in international setting. So, but I want you to actually go to Karuizawa High School, the public high school, and experience the Japanese, the traditional school culture there.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
always been my
something
dream.
that yeah. Oh, good. So that's
Yeah.
something I think very special that you can actually go and experience all day.
Oh, that sounds so fun. So like what's super special about Hirameki that you can't get at like other UWCs?
The Hirameki course is designed by myself, Mr. Underwood, and Mr. Taymor, and it stemmed from a discussion that we were having last year about that grade 10s, there was a frustration in the grade 10s that they never, they come to a UWC, but they never have that opportunity to really do UWC thing, like what they came here for. All of that academics, it's very traditionally academic. And so we thought, right, okay, well, how can we build something into the grade 10 program where there is that flexibility for students to come to ISAK and be like, oh, you know what, this is what I came here for, and actually this is what I want to pursue. And we wanted to make it more structured than something like an MYP personal project, in that so we designated ourselves as coaches. And so we designed the Hirameki course to align with the values of UWC, which is sustainability, ARDEI, identity and connections, and digital citizenship, because we felt that they were the most important things to the school. And that was agreed and designed upon by maybe 15 teachers last year. So from what those pillars were, we then created the Hirameki design. We wanted you guys to have the autonomy to build your projects as you wanted. And we also wanted to relieve the pressure of having an academic score, that we weren't assessing you, that there was that element where you were able to self-assess, which builds your skills for project planning and assessment and reflection, but also something that you're really passionate about, and you have someone to work with, which is your coach, and that you can then really build your project however you wish to, aligning with what the UWC values are and essentially why you came to ISAK. So other schools don't have it because it's very unique to UWC ISAK, and we're very proud of it.
Yeah, I think the self-assessment element is really cool, like how we're forming action statements right now. I think that that's really interesting because the personal project, there's kind of like a rubric that you have to follow, and if you don't stick by it, then you get like not so good grades, and it's kind of not so good. But I feel like when you set your own your own criteria, then you're able to live up to those standards a bit more.
Yeah,
it just kind of gives that feeling.
Yeah, you can push yourself, and you can also recognize that maybe what your limits are, and then where you can push yourself further. And I think recognizing that it's not just about the outcome of whatever the object is that you're doing, but it's also the process of, okay, well, how are you working with people? And maybe there's something that you really want to improve on the process side as well. So yeah, I agree with you. Those own action statements, if you give them enough thought, they tend to, hopefully they're suitably created to suit each individual, rather than saying everybody needs to be at this particular standard. So
yeah. And I feel like if, like, at least for me, when I set my own goals, I'm more likely to reach them than if someone gives me goals that I have to achieve. So it's also nice to have that element.
I'm not going to kind of distinguish it from other art programs, I don't think, but certainly within the what I try and do at some point throughout the year, and we're seeing that in the mega manga project, and also in the art history project we're doing at the moment, is trying to really develop a sense of where Japanese art intersects with Western art, and how that's kind of grown together, and one has influenced and changed the other. So that kind of perspective from a Japanese side, I think, is important to do. But really within the school, I kind of think of the art program as being a kind of change of pace for the students, so that they, it's very often you go from one class to a next, and it's sort of a lecture style. Sometimes the teacher is leading the class, In art, I try not to do that whenever possible.
Yeah,
And
I've noticed, yeah.
Right. And try to give space to students to prepare themselves and know what they need to do without me having to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, with time, I feel that students learn to come in at the beginning of the class, get themselves started working, get on to that without me needing to kind of like instruct them or, you know, do that sort of side of it, which I think it's important for your self-motivation to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that it'll be a bit easier for us off-campus kids to notice that change once we arrive, because it's also nice, you know, to get on with your work and then have help as you go along the way instead of being told what to do from the beginning. I think that's really special.
My approach is very much to act as a tutor.
Yeah.
So then I work with each individual student according to what their needs are, rather than having everybody. And you know, I kind of say to students sometimes in art, I never say no. So if someone says to me, "Can I do this?" my instinct is always to say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really nice because it allows the student to also grow by themselves and figure out what works for them. And I also think that combining the Japanese and Western art is also kind of a reflection of ISAK almost, because it's combining like the international influence and bringing it to Japan, like, which is what ISAK is kind of. Well, we talked a bit about the homestay, but like, what else does the Japanese course kind of offer? Like, what are the things that like the program kind of offering to us? So Japanese 1 and then like Japanese 3, like what are they offering that's like different from each other, you know? Just like kind of what does the Japanese program include?
Well, your class is very beginning, right? So I want you to, and also some people, because you take Japanese just because you have to, right? But you know, so next year maybe some people might take different language, which is fine, right? But this year, as I told you like earlier, that I want you to experience something like Japanese since you're in Japan, right? So mostly, and also with the Japanese level 1, since your your knowledge and also your skill set is very limited yet. So that's the thing that I want you to do. Something you go off campus and then you learn the culture and language out there, not on campus, right? And then the other levels, it depends on the level, but I don't want to do any traditional learning. Like, you know, then they could have gone to the Japanese school.
Yeah.
Right. So for now, they're learning about Japan from Japanese history from different angles, and not just from Japanese side, right? So yeah. So I always ask my students to say, hey, so when we talk about Japanese history, make sure you learn from your friends, you know, maybe from Holland or from US, from, you know, Thailand or whatever, so that they have more knowledge and different views, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. And then I'm trying to ask them, they are trying to cultivate their identity, because even like a Japanese student, they have different background, you know, they might live in some different country, or they, you know, they're so diverse to me, right? Even though they have Japanese passport.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to feel that they were in a diverse community, and then also they are learning Japanese through a different views.
Mm-hmm. And like we talked about this a little bit, but like, what does the Hirameki program offer? So like, what is the project itself? Like, what do we do in Hirameki?
Yeah, so the purpose, the way that the course has started, and it might change, you know, this is the first year we've run it, and so we're going to reflect and see how we want to do it next year. But the purpose was to introduce students to the project idea to begin with, and this whole concept of personalized learning, which for some students is very, very different to what they've experienced before. And self-assessment. Yeah, right. So we wanted to introduce that and, you know, give students a chance to kind of like settle into the school and maybe think about what their project is. And then so running alongside them percolating and getting used to this idea, we organized and ran lessons that centered around the 4 pillars. Mm-hmm. So, you know, some people, they have ideas, or maybe they're not too sure what their ideas are. So we were hoping to kind of educate and stimulate ideas that they then that tap into sort of what their passions are, that then they can go, oh, you know what, I would love to do a project based on this. And then it kind of gets them thinking. So our intention was to run that up until the winter break, but a lot of students a few weeks ago, most people were moving over to the project side. So then we decided to just create those lessons and put them on our website for reference. And then we would move as coaches fully over into the supporting the project side.
Yeah, and I feel like the sessions talking about the different pillars really helped, because it helped me kind of decide which pillar I wanted to work on, which was digital citizenship. And it was nice because I feel like if I hadn't had any introduction, I might have chosen something that I wasn't super like confident about. But when I learned more about each one, like I wasn't expecting to pick digital citizenship in the beginning, but the more that I learned about them, I was like, oh, you know what, this kind of works for a cool project. So that was really nice.
Yeah. Oh, good. It worked. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a sort of a maverick in most situations. In most schools, teachers are asked to have a set course for the year. And I sort of refuse to do that. So generally, I don't teach the same thing again. So I've never done the mega manga project before.
Oh,
right?
I'm glad we're the first group.
Yeah, you're the first. Last year, I did a koinobori project for the first time, which was to make large 2-meter long carp, which are a traditional kind of kite.
Oh, yeah.
For the Children's Day in May. So we did those. I've never done that before. So I kind of I mix it up, and I find it interesting myself to teach different types of skills and techniques and ideas. And I don't even go into the beginning of the year knowing what I'm going to do. I have the first unit in my mind, and then as I get to know who you are and what your interests are, I try and work out what's going to be interesting and good to go from there. So that's kind of different, I think. And it's quite frustrating because, as teachers, we have to document the curriculum. And it means that I have to redo that every year.
Oh, of course.
Right? Yeah.
But, like reflecting our interests, it actually makes sense, because there's a lot of people who are interested in anime and are great, at least that I've seen. So it was so nice to find out that that was our next unit.
But sometimes I like to throw something else in there. So I've actually bought some wood. Obviously I'm going to wait until people arrive to do that. But I've got some large pieces of wood, and I'm planning to do some wood carving with you.
That's so cool.
And that is a kind of another aspect to the art program, I think, which is interesting, in that it requires you to be concentrated. You need to focus and concentrate on what you're doing. And I don't really say anything, but I try and encourage people to, be quiet and focus and concentrate. So I think that's actually a good study habit and a good skill.
Yeah.
And with the wood carving, you won't believe how difficult it is.
I'm sure.
Your fingers and hands will hurt, right? And it would take lots of effort. And it really, when you go to the shops in Japan, you see kind of local wood carving, and you can just see the amount of skill that those people have. And when you try it yourself, then you really recognize it.
Yeah, then you begin to really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something I've got lined up, possibly.
Yeah, I always look forward to it, because I find it difficult sometimes to put aside time for drawing, like outside of school. So also having this kind of lesson where I can just sort of focus on my own project is really nice.
To be honest with you, like every class is so different, because I used to like the beginning class, because I can totally see the progress, from day one, you have no Japanese skill at all. Then by the end of the school year, with this homestay project, and also after living in Japan for a while, like their Japanese so different, and then I enjoy see them go. But now with this school year, like I'm a little more excited about teaching Japanese students Japanese. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also went to Japanese school, but I went to US. I lived in the US for 20 years, right? So maybe I'm not really typical Japanese teacher. And then I think I enjoy being different. And then also I want them to feel that they don't have to be the same, even though sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm so Japanese, or oh, I went to Japanese school and I have mindset is like this. But now you're here with everybody, and so they are so different.
It's
So,
like adding the extra international experience.
Yeah. So even though they when we like read Japanese book or something, then they can even talk about something different direct and different angles. That's just fun part.
Yeah, I think that's really special because as like you said, ISAK is kind of an international school. It's like different to a Japanese high school where everybody is Japanese. So like adding that extra element is really nice as well.
Yeah. So that's my effort. Actually, I need to make effort to do that. Otherwise, I can be very boring.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, that's so cool. Oh, arigatou gozaimasu, sensei.
はい、どういたしまして。
So my favorite part, well, I have a couple, but I think my favorite part is we're able to really develop something that is so central to the UWC movement. And those 4 pillars that we've selected and that we're going to expand upon next year, we're not bound by having those attainment goals that we're expecting you to get to. We've got this concept of personalized learning, which is a really different idea like I said, for a lot of people. It's quite refreshing, I think, for a lot of people as well, to be working at their own pace and reflecting on what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then to have that's not centered in a subject area like mathematics or within English or within humanities, where there are these other goals where you have to know stuff and you have to get upskilled. It really provides quite it's a personalized learning experience, and it's really exciting to be able to offer that. And given the UWC mission, but also the UWC ISAK mission, it's really exciting to be able to create a course that really truly speaks to what we believe in and what we think education really should be. And then having that alongside all of your other grade 10 subjects, which are necessary for moving on to the IB, it's a really nice opportunity. For us as teachers, we get really excited about it when we've been planning as to how we can really bring that alive and make that experience something that is special, and that hopefully you can develop a lot of skills on and then pursue a passion, which is, that's what education should be about, is like in igniting a passion. And a lot of the time with all the necessary stuff that we have at the moment in education, of sort of, you have to get to the next level and you have to know this and you have to pass these tests, to be able to create and implement something where there is that personalized learning aspect, where students can really design their own curriculum. That's amazing. It really is
special.
Amazing. Yeah. So we've been really excited about it, and it's really encouraging when we see the projects coming into fruition. So you said which bit is my favorite bit. It's kind of all of it, really. So
yeah, I know. I feel like I mean, the best part for me is that I get to choose what I want to do, and then especially if it's something that I enjoy doing, then I get to work on my skills. So like my Hirameki project is making videos, and it's really special because I've noticed that the more that I've made them, the better my editing skills have become, which was kind of something that I really wanted to focus on. And so I was like, oh, look, I'm so proud of myself. I've been able to make this amazing video. And it's all thanks to, practicing and honing my skills, and doing like the daily reflections at the end of each session, like Hirameki session, is also really helpful, because setting goals for each day kind of helps me to focus on what I need to do. So I feel like every single part of the program is really well thought out, and I think it's a really great implementation to ISAK.
That's great. Thank you so much for that feedback. It's really encouraging to hear that, and it's great to see students like you sort of really take it and understand the value of it as well, for the various different things, and then just to fly. And that's the magical thing about ISAK. And I think I mentioned it to all of you when you came. You came for a reason. We selected you for a reason. And this is the chance to really take the opportunity to be like, I'm going to show them what I'm made of. So that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, Vera.
Yes. Tell me.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, we kind of talked about how the curriculum changes, but what has been your favorite unit to teach so far? Like, what project did you really enjoy teaching?
Oh no, I've done too many for that, I think. I kind of really enjoyed a project I did a few years ago, which was it was like a mixed media project. And it started off as a self-portrait, but it was a self-portrait done in charcoal, and done having looked at German expressionist art and the way that expression overrid representation. And so the drawings were not lifelike, I think, but they were capturing something about the emotions of that person. So we started off, drawing like that, and drawing each other, and drawing upside down, and then we turned it into a combination, actually, of Japanese woodblock printing and Western woodblock printing, and kind of using both at once. So that was nice, and then we turned those drawings into carvings and made prints from those. And that was like a really satisfying project, because people, they realized that they didn't have to conform to what you think it should look like. You can actually draw in a different way and make it realistic in a different way.
Oh, that's really special. I'm so excited to get there so I can utilize all of the art materials, because I'm kind of limited in the resources that I have at home as well. So
yeah. So, I try and put up artwork in the school, and the top corridor of Asama, where I work, I've got all the walls filled with that.
Yeah, I've seen them. Someone showed me a video.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Another project I enjoyed was I went to a kimono factory, or workshop, I suppose it would be, a kimono workshop in Tokyo. And I saw how they made kimonos in a traditional way using stencils.
Oh, yeah.
Hand stencils, right? And so then I thought, bring that technique back into school. And we then designed patterns. We learned how to make repeat patterns, which was kind of fun to do.
Yeah.
And then turn those repeat patterns into actually a piece of fabric.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and we worked in 3 colors.
Oh, that's nice as well.
Yeah, it was quite a long project, but it was quite satisfying to get there in the end. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So cool. Oh, arigatou gozaimasu, Sensei.
どういたしまして。
Thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, Vera.
Well, that's perfect. That answers all of my questions as well. So thank you so much.